Sometimes a house isn't just a house. Sometimes it's a mask. A perfect, clean, ordinary mask hiding something so dark you'd swear it was fiction. But this story is real, and it all began with a secret door that wasn't supposed to exist. Cedar Grove, Wisconsin. Population just over 2,000. The kind of place where porch lights flick on at dusk and people still leave their keys in the ignition overnight. It was a Tuesday afternoon in late October when the first call came in. A worried mother. A shift missed at St. Mary's Hospital. Her daughter, a traveling nurse named Elena Marchetti, hadn't shown up for her 6 a.m. rotation. That was 3 days ago. No call, no text, nothing. Elena wasn't from Cedar Grove. She'd moved there 6 months earlier for a temporary contract at the hospital, renting a small apartment above a garage on the outskirts of town. She was 31 years old, fiercely independent, and according to her mother, she had a habit of attracting trouble. Not the dangerous kind, just the strange kind. Men who promised too much. Landlords who asked too many questions. Neighbors who watched a little too closely. When local police first entered Elena's apartment, nothing seemed out of place. A half-eaten bowl of cereal on the counter. Scrubs laid out on the bed. Her phone, her wallet, her keys, all still there. But no Elena. It was as if she had simply evaporated. They searched the woods behind the garage. They dragged the nearby pond. Nothing. Days turned into weeks. The story faded from the news. Another missing person case gone cold. But then, a new tenant moved into that same garage apartment. A young man named Derek. And Derek noticed something nobody else had. In the back of the bedroom closet, behind a stack of old paint cans and a heavy winter coat, there was a seam in the wall that didn't match the rest. It was almost invisible. A vertical line, papered over with the same floral wallpaper as the rest of the room. But when Derek pressed his palm against it, he felt cold air. He pushed harder. The wall gave way. A door. A secret door. Behind it was a narrow staircase leading down into a basement that, according to the building's official floor plans, did not exist. Derek took 3 steps down and stopped. The smell hit him first. A sweet, chemical odor, like nail polish remover and rotting fruit. He shone his phone flashlight into the darkness. At the bottom of the stairs, a dirt floor, a single wooden chair bolted to the ground, ropes, and on the far wall, photographs. Dozens of them, all of women, all of them sleeping, or at least that's what it looked like at first glance. Derek didn't wait. He ran. He called 911 from the street, his voice shaking so hard the dispatcher could barely understand him. When police arrived, they treated it as a potential crime scene immediately. What they found in that hidden basement changed everything. The photographs on the wall weren't just of sleeping women. They were photographs of women who matched a very specific profile. Nurses. All of them traveling nurses. All of them between the ages of 25 and 35. And all of them had gone missing from small towns across the Midwest over the last 4 years. The discovery made national headlines. The FBI was called in. They began tearing apart that basement inch by inch. Behind a loose cinder block, they found a small wooden box. Inside it, a collection of driver's licenses, 7 of them, all different names, all different faces, all women who had been reported missing and never found. Elena Marchetti's license was there. So was her nurse ID badge. But what they found next was even more disturbing. A journal. Handwritten. Detailed. Pages and pages of observations about these women, their routines, their fears, their favorite songs, their childhood pets. Someone had been studying them, hunting them, loving them in a way that only a monster can love. The man who owned the property was a 62-year-old retired contractor named Vance. He was well known in Cedar Grove. A quiet, polite man who volunteered at the local food bank and never missed a Sunday service at First Baptist. When detectives showed up at his front door, he offered them coffee. He asked if they wanted sugar. He smiled. He didn't look like a man with a secret basement full of ghosts, but his eyes changed when they mentioned the door. The polite smile didn't fade. It just became something else, something colder. Vance was arrested on the spot. But during his interrogation, He said something that made the room go silent. He told the detectives they had the wrong man. He wasn't the one who built the basement. He only knew about it. He only let it happen. He said the real person responsible was still out there, someone Harold called the collector. And the collector, he said, was untouchable. When asked to give a name, Harold wrote something down on a piece of paper. The lead detective read it. His face went pale. He folded the paper and left the room without saying a word. Now here we are. A missing nurse. A secret door. A retired man who claims he's just a small piece of something much larger. And somewhere out there, a person Harold called the collector. Someone who, according to Harold, has been doing this for decades. Someone with money. Someone with power. Someone who might be watching this right now. The question isn't just who killed Elena Marchetti. The question is how many more secret doors are out there? How many basements that don't exist on paper? How many empty chairs waiting for someone to sit down? You can search the FBI database for missing nurses in the last 5 years. The number will shock you. Something is happening behind closed doors. Literally. And the man who held the keys to just one of those doors is sitting in a jail cell right now, smiling, refusing to say another word until his lawyer arrives. But that's only half the story. The other half is what Harold whispered to his attorney during their first private meeting. 3 words that have now launched a nationwide manhunt. 3 words I'll tell you about in the next part. If you made it this far, you're clearly someone who needs to know the truth. So hit that subscribe button right now. Tap the bell, because the next part of this story is already in motion, and you do not want to miss what comes next. Leave your theory in the comments. Who do you think the collector is? Someone close to Harold? Someone in the system? Or someone nobody has even thought of yet? I read every comment. And if you're right, I'll pin it. See you in the next one. You wanted the ending. But I have to warn you, this doesn't end the way you think it does. It ends in a courtroom. It ends in silence. It ends with a name that still keeps me up at night. When we left off, Harold Vance was sitting in a county jail cell, refusing to speak. His only words to his attorney during that first private meeting were 3 words whispered so quietly the guards couldn't catch them. Those 3 words launched a nationwide manhunt, and they changed everything. The words were simple. 3 words that meant nothing to most people but meant everything to the FBI. Harold had leaned across the cold metal table, his lips almost touching his lawyer's ear, and said 3 words. A name, actually. Not a full name. A location. Something called Blackwood Farm. Agents scrambled. They pulled property records. They ran satellite imagery. What they found was a 300-acre estate in rural Kentucky, owned by a shell company registered in the Cayman Islands. The estate had been purchased 15 years earlier. No one had ever filed a noise complaint. No one had ever called the police. As far as the neighbors knew, the property was a private horse farm owned by some rich family from out of state. But when federal agents finally breached the main house, they didn't find horses. They found corridors. Long, underground corridors connecting multiple buildings. They found rooms, soundproofed rooms. And in one of those rooms, they found a woman, alive. Barely. Her name was Sophie Keene, a traveling nurse from Boise, Idaho. She'd been missing for 11 months. Her family had already held a memorial service. They had already said goodbye. Sophie was so malnourished she couldn't stand on her own. Her fingernails were torn from trying to claw through concrete. But she was alive. And she was talking. Sophie told investigators about a man who never showed his face. A man who spoke through an intercom system. A man who called himself Mr. Ash. She said he was obsessed with nurses. He called them angels of mercy. He believed he was collecting them, saving them from a world that didn't deserve them. According to Sophie, there were others, many others. Some had been there for years, but she hadn't seen them in months. She only heard their voices through the walls. Then one day, the voices stopped. The search of Blackwood Farm expanded. Cadaver dogs arrived. Excavation equipment was brought in. Within 48 hours, they found the first set of remains, then the second, then the third. By the end of the week, they had unearthed the bodies of 12 women, all nurses, all reported missing between 2014 and 2024. Elena Marchetti's body was among them. She had been buried beneath a bed of wildflowers, her hands folded across her chest, a silver locket around her neck that her mother confirmed was not hers when she vanished. A gift from him. The collector. But here's the twist. The man who owned Blackwood Farm wasn't some shadowy criminal mastermind. He wasn't an untouchable billionaire or a corrupt politician. He was a 74-year-old former coroner named Dr. Leonard Sibley, a man who had spent 30 years signing death certificates in 3 different states. A man who had access to funeral homes, body bags, and a system built on paperwork most people never question. He had been hiding in plain sight for decades. And the worst part, he was never caught. Not alive, anyway. When agents found Dr. Sibley in the master bedroom of the main house, he was already dead. A self-inflicted gunshot wound. On the desk beside him, a letter, 12 pages long. In it, he confessed to everything, every name, every date, every detail. He wrote about each woman like she was a painting in a private gallery. He remembered their birthdays, their favorite colors, the sound of their voices. He called them his collection, his masterpiece. And in the final paragraph, he wrote something that made the lead agent physically sick. He wrote that there were more, not bodies, more doors, more basements, more properties he had purchased over the years using different names. And he had burned all the records before pulling the trigger. Harold Vance was just a caretaker, a man who kept one of Sibley's many properties clean and quiet. The secret basement in Cedar Grove wasn't the only one. It was just the one we found first. To this day, the FBI has located 6 of those properties. 6 hidden rooms. 6 basements that didn't exist on paper. They've identified 18 more potential sites scattered across the country. But without Sibley alive to confess, without the records he destroyed, they're digging blind. And here's the part that keeps me staring at the ceiling at 2 in the morning. Before he died, Dr. Sibley had attended church every single Sunday. He had volunteered at homeless shelters. He had donated to children's hospitals. His neighbors described him as the kindest man they had ever met. One woman actually cried during a news interview, saying the police must have made a mistake. He used to bring her homemade soup when she was sick. That's the thing about monsters. They don't look like monsters. They look like your neighbor, your friend, the polite old man who holds the door open for you at the grocery store. They walk among us every single day, wearing masks we never think to question. So I leave you with this. How many Dr. Sibleys are still out there right now? How many secret rooms have never been discovered? How many families are still waiting for a phone call that might never come? Elena Marchetti's mother now runs a foundation in her daughter's name, funding searches for other missing nurses across the country. She says she won't rest until every hidden door is kicked open, every basement is exposed to sunlight. She says grief is a fuel unlike anything else on earth. And honestly, I believe her. The case is technically still open, still active. The FBI maintains a tip line. They believe there could be dozens more victims they haven't found yet. If you know anything, if you've ever noticed something strange about a neighbor's property, a door that shouldn't be there, a room that doesn't make sense, say something. You could be the reason a family finally gets closure. Thank you for watching this story all the way to the end. Most people click away when it gets heavy, but you didn't. That tells me you care about the truth. So do me a favor, subscribe, hit that bell, because there are more stories like this one. Stories that need to be told. Stories the news forgets too quickly. And if you want to help the families of these missing nurses, I've put a link to the Marchetti Foundation in the description. Every share of this video raises awareness. Every comment pushes it further into the algorithm. You might not think you can make a difference, but you just did. See you in the next one.